how do we use a classroom? Well, the first thing we do is not put our back to the students. If you're going to write a lot on the whiteboard, I suggest you use handouts. Otherwise, well, if you've got your back to the kids, who knows what they're doing? So, better to stay in front. Secondly, your voice. You can't talk like this. You can't talk like an Australian with marbles in your mouth. And I'm from Yorkshire, but I don't talk like this, class. I talk in a neutral fashion. I've seen many a very broad Aussie or a very broad Scotsman teaching, and I sometimes wonder, how the hell do you get away with it? Frankly, it should be a neutral voice. Next, use the classroom. I see too many teachers nowadays, they're sitting down. Oh my God. If I'm giving a test, I might sit down. Otherwise, no way. Stand up. Use the classroom. Walk around. This isn't a particularly big class. At GMIS, we had a huge class. Walk. Stand behind them. Stand next to them. Talk to them. Make sure that they're engaged.
Hi, today I'd like to look at my life with GMIS Jakarta and the fun and enjoyment I had teaching there. And I will emphasize fun and enjoyment. I think a teacher has just as much right as a student to enjoy teaching, because if they're enjoying it, hopefully the students will too. So I'm going to look at some of my favourite experiences, some of my techniques, and just general approach to teaching with the emphasis on fun. Now, in the early years, 1998 till around 2002, I was generally dealing with the grade 5s and 6s, so 10, 11-year-olds. And one of the things that I do on a Friday would be, especially the first class of the first term, here comes the... And of course they'd all look at me as if I was nuts. Here comes the... And I'm trying to bring it out on them. What's he trying to say? So anyway, sooner or later, one of the kids would come up with weekend. Here comes the weekend. And always, every Friday from then on till the end of term, I'd always start the class with, here comes the... And they'd all scream weekend. Anyway, that was just one small example of making the kids understand that a classroom environment should be fun. Now, I was head of discipline, and security was an issue, especially when we moved to Kemairon. And in one lesson I remember, I think it was the first year at Kemairon, though we may have still been in Anshel. I think actually we were still in Anshel. There was a spate of kids, not disappearing, but you know, there was all sorts of stuff going on, emails to school saying, we've got your kid, it's a ransom, all sorts of strange, weird stuff. So I went to the class one day and I said to one of the kids, I'm taking you into my car, what are you going to do? And of course he's very passive. So I go to the next kid, I'm taking you in. And of course he starts kicking me and punching, and the kids are shocked. But of course, I'm well done. That's exactly what you do. So again, yes, I'm teaching history. Yes, I'm teaching English. But hopefully, as a teacher, you show, don't tell. If you've got information to them, give it to them in a lively way. Great technique for teachers to keep kids' attention, because let's face it, if they're not listening to you, and remember, it's, as I used to point out to them, 2 ears, 1 mouth. If God wanted you to speak more, it'd be 2 mouths, 1 ear. But this is how you learn, and this, not this. And too much attention nowadays in school is this, but it's bullshit, man. They're there to learn, and the only way is through this and this. Not this. When again we moved to Kemairon, I was head of prefects and discipline, and one area was dealing with kids as they were coming into assembly, if they were what we call the latecomers, so they were past 7:10, we'd keep them there for a while, take their names. And I'd always point out to the group, it was always the same faces. Look, if you were flying on holiday tomorrow, would you be late? No, sir. No, sir. I said, come on, don't disrespect yourself. Don't disrespect your school. Another valuable lesson were the kids who, unfortunately, they'd be grade 2 or 3 and they'd bring their maids in carrying their bags. I put a stop to that. So at the entrance, the maids had to let the kid bring the bag. Of course, if it was very heavy, we'd get the prefects to help them put it into the class. But generally, why is a kid, 7 or 8-year-old, packed with a bag? Oh, ridiculous. Also, of course, the manner of which they walked. It's okay talking age, but I saw 8-year-olds acting like 80-year-olds. They'd walking like this. Come on, guys, head up, walk. And one of the worst things was at lunchtime, the maids were allowed to come in, and you'd see them feeding the kids like. So of course, again, we tried to stop the maids coming in and feeding kids. It's okay if they're 4 or 5, but my God, I saw them feeding 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, ridiculous. If you don't have the attention of the kids, you can't teach. If you don't have discipline in the classroom, you can't teach. Simple. Example, if you have, let's say you're teaching literature and they're doing a passage, we taught Harry Potter, so they're reading from Harry Potter. You don't wait till the end of the sentence. It might be at Privet Ride, John, you're splitting it up, so you're keeping their attention to what we're doing and saying. Also, of course, when hands go up, you're not choosing the same people all the time. You're making sure that, in fact, I don't think I bothered that much with hands. I just generally asked somebody, keep them on their toes, keep them thinking. I don't want kids looking out the window, that's no use to me. And another thing, any yawning, it was like paper in the mouth. No way, no way. Come on, have a bit of respect for the teacher. One of the other things we used to have were when the teacher came into class, it was stand up. That went after a year or two. What a shame, what a beautiful. So why do I call my channel Don't Be a Sheep in Bali? Well, it comes from my teaching days at GMIS. Sometimes kids can be cruel, of course. So in a lesson, you might get a kid making a stupid mistake, and one person will point it out and the others will point also, laugh or whatever. And as I'm walking, I'd go, "Man, man!" And they'd look at me, especially if they didn't know me at the beginning. And I'd go, "Bah, bah!" And I'd ask them, "Why am I doing this?" And then somebody, sooner or later, would come, "Ah, you're telling us not to be sheep, not to be followers." I said, "Well done, good man, good lady." So that's why at the end of each of these programs, I say, "Bah, bah, don't be a sheep."